Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network for Entrepreneurs. I'm Dan Hanford, and my wife, Danae, and I interview successful people sharing stories behind tough decisions that they've had to make along their journey as an entrepreneur. Before we get started, let's hear from one of our sponsors. Have you ever thought about investing in real estate, but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HanfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HanfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD Capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HanfordCapital.com. On the podcast with us today is Justin Grimes. He is born and raised in South Houston, Texas, and he actually is really deeply involved in real estate. And one of the things I like the most about him is that he has multiple streams of income. And in order to stabilize your income, that is very important. So one of the things he's focusing on right now is mortgage notes. So welcome to the podcast, Justin.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me. Thank you very much.
Hi, Justin. Want to see if you can get us started by just giving us a brief background of how you got to the place where you're in business for yourself and investing in real estate. Just kind of share a little bit about how you got there.
Yeah, I started out kind of accidentally, I suppose, in 2007 and 8. I bought a condo, kind of a bachelor pad. And after I met my wife in 2013, we bought a home. So instead of sell that, I plugged a renter in, and we just kind of did that for a while. It was passive, a good renter, and a well-maintained property. So it was simple. In 2016 in May, we had an unfortunate event occur in my family where my father was killed in an auto accident. And from that, I had to take a hard look at how I could utilize, I guess, what I may know in real estate or investing and what I don't, and figure it out. So, at that time, my mom was a retired school teacher, so she had some retirement income, but, we kind of needed to huddle up and figure that out. So as the dust settled, for her, I started looking into multifamily syndications and things, and it's not my primary focus for my income, but for her passive income and stuff, we're able to generate nice returns there, just as passive investors. And, we do multifamily, we do self-storage, and then some mobile home park stuff. So anyway, through that education that I kind of took a crash course in, I've come to really enjoy the compliance end of mortgage note creation, which in Texas is, it's a nice market down here. We've got some nice, just blue collar areas and pockets, and there's people needing opportunities to purchase homes that perhaps are unbankable. So we like to provide a solution for them where, they can pay basically market rent a month, but it goes towards equity and owning a home in 20 years rather than having your rent increase every year by 8% or whatever. So
what I want to ask you to do, Justin, because it sounds to me like you have multiple things that you've done over the past as a real estate investor, and all real estate investors are entrepreneurs at the same time. So, some people think, oh, I'm just a real estate investor. Well, you are an entrepreneur too, because you got to kind of, watch your expenses and run your own business and work with people and deal with challenges. What is one tough decision that you've really had to make over this journey that you've had and doing all of this real estate and making some of these transitions for yourself and your family?
Yeah, I would say something that comes to mind that, I'm still kind of in the middle of, and we'll get to the end of the story or where we're at today here as we go. But one of my first opportunities to kind of jump in the game, I'd taken classes and read books and listened to podcasts, and it's time to take action. So, I've gone to a meetup and met an acquaintance, and we got to looking at a deal, and he was unable to raise the funding for that, but wanted to, move it. So he wholesaled it. When not knowing a whole lot about it, I said, well, sure, I understand the methodology behind that. And, you're going to make some money on this deal, and it's got a lot of meat on the bone. But when we got to the closing table for me to purchase it, I start looking at, the settlement statement and all of that stuff. And there's a fee on there for $30,000. So I purchased the property for $220,000 and $30,000 is built into that for the finder. And it had, some potential, but as is the risk with flipping, many things can go wrong, and many things did on this, all the way to termites. At the end, I had what I'm fighting today is a dispute related to the volume of land. I basically bought 1.1 acres and come to find out I own a little under 1 because of some title issues that hadn't been caught at purchase, but were caught at sale. So just kind of, there's probably 5 things that happened on that thing that people who've been doing this for a long time haven't had to deal with. So it's been quite a journey.
So where would you say in that tough decision, because I can pick out a few myself, but I want to hear from you first before I start diving into it a little bit. Mm-hmm. Where would you say are some of the lessons that you learned through that tough decision?
So, me and that guy are still, we still, I guess you call it buddies, but, we've talked. And for me, I didn't control the alignment of interests. For me, it's important to build out my team, whether it's a realtor or a lender or, just a general contractor, and make sure that we're on the same page and that if I win, you win, and if you win, I win. And this one wasn't structured that way, and I didn't know any better at the time. So that's how I approach these things now. If I'm put into a deal or I invest in a deal and there's that much meat on the bone for somebody to walk away with that much cash before I even swing a hammer, what I work out with those wholesalers is, let's figure out a way for you to get a portion of your earnings on the front, and then we'll dump a portion of it in an escrow account, or we'll have a gentleman's agreement and come up with a scope of work and what that plan for execution is going to be. And I'll pay you interest on your money that you're not walking away with yet. But at the end of the day, I'm not out of pocket 20 grand and you're walking away with 30,
So you basically are taking the money that would have been paid to the wholesaler and saying, hey, let's pay you half of it right now and use the other half to, upfit the property, get it up to par. I'll still pay you. You're basically kind of using them as a hard money lender, because you're going to pay them some money on some interest on that loan. And then you're going to try to, flip that property once you've rehabbed it, and then pay them the rest of their finder's fee after you've rehabbed it and sold it.
That's right. And it's so traditionally for wholesalers, most of them that I've met aren't interested in that. And that's okay. For me, I've got to have that guy on my team that's going to bet on me, and I'm going to bet on him, and we're going to win together. So most wholesalers probably wouldn't like that model, and that's okay, because the market doesn't demand that. But for me, after kind of losing my butt on the first one, I've really got to have that alignment of interests. Otherwise, it's just not an investment I want to make at that time.
Well, we hear a lot about aligning of interest in real estate and other businesses, and I think what you've done there with a wholesaler is actually something that I've actually never heard of it before, and I'm sure some of the people that are listening right now are going, that's interesting. I should probably consider that, because, like you said, it definitely aligns your interest with that wholesaler, and that allows you to understand that, hey, if this wholesaler wants their fee, they're going to bring me deals that they know are going to be able to be rehabbed and be able to sell because they want their fee.
That's right. Yeah. So I hope I don't get any hate mail from any wholesalers telling me, the worst idea ever. But
honestly, I think it's actually a good idea that you've brought this up, Justin, because not only does this affect the wholesalers because, they're going to have only half their fee paid up front, but you could, as a wholesaler, command a little bit of a higher fee, because you're going to be bringing in these better quality deals, and you're going to be saying, hey, this is a better quality deal. And yes, my fee's a little bit higher, but I'm willing to, because I know it's such a good deal, I'm willing to take half the fee up front, and then you just pay me the other half once you actually rehab it and close on it.
That's right. Yeah. So the relationship that we have with 2 of the wholesalers that'll do this with me, I feel like they're confident in their ability to put me in a good deal, and I'm confident in their ability to find that. And so, not to beat a dead horse, but that alignment of interest is there. And we're betting on each other succeeding, and I think that's what it's all about.
In addition to that, as far as aligning the interest with the wholesalers, are there any other lessons that you might have learned through that process?
Yeah, so I'm still balancing a W-2 income job. So on that particular flip, I was babysitting general contractors and all kinds of stuff. So, it was a lot more, it just needed a lot more of my attention than I was able to give it. So through that process, I kind of, while I was licking my wounds, I said, man, I got to change something. I can't do everything. So what I ended up doing is finding a business partner, and she and I had met through kind of, I guess, making some donations after the hurricane down here. We kind of had mutual, I guess, acquaintances that introduced us. And over that next few months, I'd say 6 months or so, we'd have coffee, a couple times a month, and developed a relationship. What are you struggling with? What are you doing well at? How can I help you? And so we just developed that kind of rapport, and out of that came a partnership that we formed. And that's who I'm in business with now. She handles a lot of the kind of day-to-day, grind it out and keep everything on track. I handle the capital raising for private money and the compliance end of things on the backside when you're forming these mortgage notes. So the lesson learned there is I can't do it all, and I need to leverage my team and, win together.
Do you think that during that process, when you were buying that first property where you had, made that kind of, not so good decision to get into that deal, do you think that some of that information would have been gathered if you would have done a little bit better due diligence on the front end, or did you not really have a lot of time, which is why you were kind of forced or rushed into that decision?
Yeah, I think I got so excited to take action that, after reading all the books and podcasts, I forgot, the simplest lesson of all, to really dig into those and know your numbers and all that stuff. So absolutely, like I said, me and the guy, we're going to go have lunch tomorrow, and we're still, friendly in the business relationship and everything like that. So ultimately I take responsibility for it. I went into that thing and, I missed it on the front end. I got, I just didn't run the numbers right. Didn't reflect accurately on how much time it was going to take out of my schedule. And so, yeah.
Are you going to be losing any money on that deal?
Yeah. So to date, it'll be just under $20,000, which is it's a substantial amount of money for my wife and I at this point. We just had our second baby. Where we're at on it though is trying to work back through the title insurance and things, which is a rather lengthy saga as well. So we're trying to recoup some of that money, but that's based on the fact that when we bought it, it was basically misrepresented and not found that, I wasn't buying 1.1 acres. I was buying 0.97 or something. So unfortunately, if any money's made back on this thing, it'll be through some element of legal participation.
Yeah. I want the listeners to understand that, yes, you want to make sure you try to get that first deal, or you want to make sure you take action. You definitely want to make sure you know some of the factors beforehand. But I'll tell you this, Justin, and I'm sure you would probably agree, this is going to be a costly mistake for you. But through this costly mistake, you have learned a lot. You have probably saved yourself more in the future losses with this one loss that if you didn't take action, you would never even have learned.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think as when I was in the storm, it sure was hard to look at it that way. But after the dust has settled and things, I really, some of those lessons that have been learned, I could have never read enough articles to really drive that home.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Do you have another tough decision that you have kind of, had to deal with since going into real estate and kind of doing this, having this transition?
Yeah. So another one I would say is just trying to find the right business partner to put some of my mom's money to work with. So when this all occurred, the only thing I knew was stocks and bonds, or knew about at least. So we put the money into, an account and let it grow. And it did well. The stock market's done well. And that's just how that's gone right now. But as with everything else, it's cyclical. So as time's gone on, we really talked, my brother, my mom and I, and said, man, we're asking for it. We're kind of on pins and needles waiting for it to drop out from under us. So let's peel this off a little bit at a time and plant some tranches of capital in different opportunities. So it's been a journey for me to find syndicators that have good reputations and history, and that I feel like I can develop a long-term business relationship. But we've got some that I'm comfortable with, and ultimately, I don't know how else to put it other than I'm betting with my mom's money, and I don't want to put additional I guess, stress or strain on me. But, I take that seriously, and it's a big responsibility. And so far we're doing well. And I'm happy with where we're at.
Justin,
Mm-hmm.
talk to our listeners just a little bit about the strategies that you've developed to make these difficult decisions. And you've obviously made a number of them that we've talked about here. So is there something, a strategy or a technique, if you will, that you sort of go through a process when you're trying to make a decision like this?
Yeah. So I'm very analytical, and I'll stay in my head all day if I can. And over time, I've kind of learned, to take time to do that, but then have a conversation with a person so that you can get some feedback from a human. So, I use my wife a lot for that, and I'm grateful for that. A couple of years ago, before we started doing this, we had a conversation, where are we at financially and what are our goals? And so all these things that previously, maybe with that first rental, I was just doing it because that's, I just jumped right in and did it, and she wasn't really involved in that. And I think, that was a learning exercise for us to just use each other as a team and sounding board. And before I make any decisions now, we talk and go through the risks and the upside potential as well. Just people that I respect, mentors, coaches, things like that, I think all play a really key role in your journey. If you've got those people on your team that are helping to, maybe just help you think through the different strategies and scenarios and some things that you didn't see because you hadn't experienced it yet. So, yeah, I rely on other people.
And do you have a book that you've read that you would recommend to our audience that has affected, the way you make decisions in real estate or with your other ventures?
I do. What got me started and all that, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and then it went down that rabbit hole of cash flow and all that, and I've enjoyed that. But after this incident, and I've read it twice now and hope to read it or could plan to continue to read Think and Grow Rich. I know that's maybe not an odd one that you've never heard on this show, but for me, it spoke to me a lot just about the persistence. Many people fail on their first attempt, and, some people quit after it. Many people quit after that, really. So I didn't want to be one of those. I think a lot of the people that I look up to, and like you guys, y'all's topic on your podcast, a lot of the people that eventually make it, they just have, an easy journey. There were bumps and bruises along the way, and the difference between them and the people that you don't hear about is that they kept on going.
So I want to shift gears here a little bit, Justin, and I know you're, still in the thick of this whole, going from W-2 to getting into doing the real estate full-time and 100%. But, I know you've lost some money in this one deal, but I know probably sometime in the past you've made some money. And so I want to know, has there been any exciting places that you've traveled or items that you've purchased with the money that you've made up to this point?
Yeah, what we've done to date's been reinvested, but we've done, we have a fun backyard. We're pretty homebodies, my wife and I, so we go swimming in the pool and cook out and things. What we're trying to do now is carve out time, to build memories with family and stuff. So our plan is to take once a quarter, take a trip, whether it's, nothing super crazy. Actually, we're going to come to y'all's area, perhaps down in South Carolina. My wife's from the East Coast, so we may drop the kids off and take a long weekend down there somewhere on the coast. So that's what we want to do, is use this to create a foundation for wealth and have some fun along the way.
Yeah, that's awesome. And do you have, as you continue to grow this business, do you have an item on your bucket list of a place that you want to go or an item that you want to purchase as you continue to kind of, create your vision board?
I think ultimately we both enjoy, I guess, traveling in general. So before the kids came along, we were able to take some trips to Europe, or a trip to Europe and Italy and stuff. And I know my wife would love to go back and do that. So yeah, that wouldn't hurt. For me, I'd love to have a sweet car and like a little weekend Corvette or something. So
sure. Awesome. Well, let me ask you this. How can the listeners reach out to you if they want to follow you more or contact you or get some more information from you?
Yeah. So I've got a website and launching a podcast here next month in July, and that's called The Cash Flow Hustle. So the website is thecashflowhustle.com. And on there, we've got, some free content and downloads and things like that. So, I've got blogs and just information that some of the listeners, I think, may find useful. Just, I'm on a journey like you guys and a lot of your listeners. And so that my objective is to share that journey through my lens, and then to bring in other entrepreneurs and talk through how they got to where they're at, the steps that they took, and the challenges that they had. So,
well, that's awesome. And that's called the Cash Flow Hustle Podcast. We'll definitely include that as well as your other information in our show notes for this episode, which can be found at toughdecisions.net. Thank you so much, Justin, for coming on and spending some time with us today. I look forward to having you on a future podcast as you continue to grow your business and improve as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate you guys' time and having me on today. Thank you very much.
Yep, you as well. Thanks again, Justin.
All right. Y'all take care.
Right. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email, where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.